This is, of course, in regard to the Israel-Palestine conflict that is going on. I don't have a particular side in this conflict because why would you pick sides with people in the Middle East, generally? But this is just something I just don't care about. I just don't care about Israel. I don't care about Palestine. And Breadtube is really obsessed about this. And I find that really interesting because it's not like if the Palestinians were taken out of this context, they'd be like, oh yeah, those Palestinians are such good blokes. I mean, this is Amnesty International's view on the Gaza Strip, right? So apparently the Hamas de facto administration, which is the Gaza place, the other West Bank is controlled by...
Hamas.
No, it's Fatna or something.
Fitna?
It probably says here, in fact, but yeah, something like that. But it's not Hamas, and they're not a terrorist group. But Hamas is a terrorist group, and they're pretty awful. They, as they say, crack down on dissent, stifling freedoms of expression and assembly, attacking journalists, detaining opponents. This is from 2020 as well. This is not exactly old news. This is literally last year what they were doing. Security forces in both areas use unnecessary or excessive force during law enforcement activities. You might. Is there anything about police that the left doesn't like when they're using excessive force? Don't know. It's just one of those questions that's left up in the air. Unresolvable, Breadtube. And of course, they torture and have other ill treatment of detainees, which are committed with impunity. Breadtube doesn't have anything to say about that. Women face discrimination and violence, including killings as a result of gender-based violence, as in honour killings. Glad we're not feminists. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex people continue to face discrimination and lack protection. That's a really mild-mannered way of putting that. They continue to face discrimination in Palestine, in Gaza. Very, very underplayed, I would say. Anyway, authorities make widespread use of administrative detention without trial. These people don't get any justice, obviously. They use, in Gaza, civilians are tried before military courts. I mean, literally, if you were to say, look, how could one place on earth do everything wrong? It would be the Gaza Strip, right? Civilians tried before military courts, causing Gaza hand down death sentences. Palestinian armed groups in Gaza occasionally fire rockets indiscriminately into Israel, which, of course, is what's going on right now. So the counter-argument to this is, of course, Israel bad? It's like, sure. But is it this bad? Possibly not. Women and girls face discrimination in law and practice and were inadequately protected against sexual and other gender-based violence, so-called honour killings. 19 women died in the West Bank and 18 in Gaza as a result of gender-based violence, according to the Women's Centre for Legal Aid and Counselling in 2020. Section 152 of the Penal Code applicable in Gaza criminalises same-sex consensual sexual activity. It makes it punishable by up to 10 years imprisonment. So you're literally not allowed to be gay in Gaza.
Faces discrimination.
Faces discrimination. It's a very nice way of putting you will go to prison for a decade, at best, incidentally, which is something that, in fact, one Hamas militant found out. The Hamas executed recently, in fact, 5 years ago, but they executed one of the group's leading commanders because he was alleged to be gay.
Was he gay?
Who knows? Probably not, to be honest.
But someone said, bro, you is gay.
Yes.
And the other guys were like, hey, maybe he is.
Is al-Din al-Qassam brigades shot Mahmoud Ish-Tiwi 3 times in the chest after they detained him because he was alleged to be gay and a thief. I guess Breadtube were like, well, he's at least a thief. At least he doesn't believe in private property. I mean, But of course, this is doubtless going to be something about, his family said, no, this is about settling of internal scores and whatnot. Sure, it probably is. I doubt he was actually gay, but the point is, they thought that if we just say that this guy's gay, people won't mind that we shot him, and that's the kind of attitude that exists in the Gaza Strip. And like I said, it's not a very nice place if you're concerned about, I don't know, civil liberties or women's rights or gay rights or civilization. You generally wouldn't want to live in a place like this. And that's not to say that this is, justifies any atrocities that are done against them. Of course it doesn't. It doesn't justify killing of children or civilians or anything like this. It's just really weird how the left online have made Palestine their sort of cause célèbre, or however you say it. It's the thing that they're all talking about. And you get things like this from Black Lives Matter. It's like, Black Lives Matter stands in solidarity with Palestinians. In what way? Is it about their killing of gays, or is it about their killing of women? Or is it about their using military courts to try civilians, or the just general abolition of civil rights? Is it about the heavy-handed policing that they use? I mean, what part of Palestine did Black Lives Matter actually stand behind? I really want to know. They say we're a movement committed to ending settler colonialism in all forms. So it's just that. It's just that. It's just the fact that the Israelis are there. And this is why people keep saying, yeah, you kind of look a bit anti-Semitic. So yeah, because in all other circumstances, if the description that amnesty applied to Palestine applied to anywhere else, Breadtube would be like, no, this is evil. They're bad guys. They're fascists. They're Nazis. Blah blah blah. But when it's Palestinians, yeah, but the Jews. Anyway, so there was a great deal of money being raised for something called the Palestinian Children's Welfare Fund. Now, it has been alleged that this has links to various jihadi websites, but these are fairly old allegations. This isn't the only set of allegations, but it just seemed like the most prolific one, frankly, where basically they've got links to various websites, and obviously the groups that are running these websites that are jihadi groups, and that's not really very controversial. I think most Palestinian organizations probably have some links to Hamas in some way, and this is something that Breadtube are well aware of. In fact, let's play a clip to show that Breadtube are well aware that Hamas are essentially a fascist party that are in control of the Gaza Strip, which means they are embedded and intrinsically part of any organization. There will be members of Hamas that are at the very top, in the same way that the Nazi Party, all businesses would have had party members at the top to coordinate what's going on. But this is them, and this is Vorsh saying that he's well aware of this fact.
Can you do a shout out to Vosh's charity stream and Twitch raid? He's raised money for Palestine Children's Relief Fund. Hold on a second. That rings a bell to me. Let me look that up. Yeah, Palestine Children's Relief Fund has been criticized due to its financial affiliation with the Holy Land Foundation, which was shut down for suspected funneling of donations to terrorist organizations. So no, that's not something I'm going to get involved in. That's not a good connection. Can you do a shout out to Vosh's charity?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Deepak is a Zionist. That's not surprising to me. Just so you guys know, the source, or like the assertion that he's referring to there, is an old one, and it stems from like the charity has assisted children, and those children's parents were associated with an organization associated with Hamas. We're talking like multiple layers deep. The problem is that Hamas is pretty broadly integrated into Palestine. They have their hands in a lot of things. I mean, they're one of the dominant power structures there, of course. So pretty much everything in Palestine is about 2 degrees of separation from Hamas, and people will use this as an excuse to label everything they don't like as terrorist sympathizers. And it's a way, essentially the legitimizing mechanism that allows Israel to do what it does over there. Yeah, it's I think it's an incredibly irresponsible mentality, and I think this is definitely a major blind spot for David Pakman, which is unfortunate. But I saw him getting some criticism.
So pretty crystal clear. And again, if you were discussing any other country and you would say, well, I'm going to send money, or any organization, and they were like 2 degrees of separation from the Nazi Party, I suspect that Breadtube would probably have a lot more to say about sending that organization money. But when it's Palestine, for some reason it's fine and there's no complaint, even though, as they say, the whole thing is, Gaza is controlled by Hamas. Hamas are a literal terrorist organization, and Breadtube decided they were going to raise nearly $500,000 for them. That's weird, isn't it? And this seems to have been a combined arms attempt by Breadtube. So as the Serfs, which is like one of the sort of small CrumbTube grifter channels, they tweet out, so considering he raised $250,000 last night between Vorsh, Sean, Denims, Chapo, Kevin and Tonight, Thought Slime will have raised nearly $500,000 for Palestinian relief efforts. Cue obligatory conservative great day for Hamas retweets. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it seems like Vorsh is admitting that this is a great day for Hamas. You're sending them $500,000. Any thoughts on this, Callum?
I don't even know what to say. Just yikes, I guess. I feel pathetic, but I don't know why you'd do this. Like,
Good question. Why would you raise $500,000 for organizations that you know are staffed by people who are either sympathetic to or active members of Hamas?
are there not more, neutral actors there? Like, I assume like the Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders or something would be present.
I actually don't know.
But that would be an easier thing to give to, I would have thought.
It would be a more morally neutral thing to give to, I think. It wouldn't be money that you know is going to go straight to terrorism. But it's not a big deal, though. I mean, as you can see in the comments and the replies, this is someone replying to one of them. We'll go to the next one, John. So what if some of the money goes to Hamas? Even if they were right about that, people need homes. At the end of the day, Israel will be fine. Terrorists act on such a small effing scale that anyone who genuinely considers 9 out of 10 of them to be a threat should be laughed at. So it's okay if the money goes to Hamas.
What do you mean small scale? Like, I thought Hamas were in charge of the entire Gaza Strip.
They are.
Like, they're the elected government they
They
were
are.
voted for.
They're the ones who are sending hundreds and hundreds of rockets into Israel.
Yeah, but like they are the government of the
Yes.
Strip. In which
Yes.
case, that's not some tiny group of 12 people.
Yeah, they are the power structure, and they are a designated terrorist organization in the US, Canada, and the UK. And so, I mean, the idea that they don't know that Hamas is going to get this money is ridiculous. And if someone you know is a breadtuber, it might be worth letting the authorities know that they're actually funneling money to a terrorist group. And they seem to know it. Which is why David Pakman very wisely was like, look, I'm not touching this. David Pakman being a Jewish left-wing political commentator. So this is why Vorsh is like, oh, well, he's a Zionist. As if this is a guilty red mark against him. And it probably is in left-wing circles. But this is why David Pakman was like, well, okay, I'm not going to go down that road because I don't want to fund terrorism because David Pakman is not a lunatic, apparently. But the thing is, this is, I think, a general problem with charities, is they're not exactly hugely reliable at getting the money to the needy anyway. The Daily Mail actually recently published quite a long report that I'm not going to go through in its entirety, but a long-running problem of charities basically using huge amounts of the funds on wages, fundraising and other overheads, which seriously cuts into the amount that actually gets the needies.
Probably one of the best examples being the Joe Biden one we did that he set up. He spent 98% of all the donated money on salaries.
That's right. And these are, and the only reason you know that is because these charities publish their finances, whereas the PCWF or whatever it's called, PCRF, sorry, they do not publish their finances. And that's interesting. And this was reported by NGO Monitor. They do not publish funding information and therefore lack transparency and accountability. So not only are you giving money to an organization that has been implicated in funneling money to terrorists, and you know that generally if you send any money to Palestine, it's going to Hamas anyway, you can't even find out where the money went because they're opaque when it comes to how the money is spent. Is that an organization you'd give money to for just anything? If you're like, right, breast cancer awareness or something, and this charity was like, yeah, we don't reveal how we spend the money. Are you going to give them money? Or would you go for a charity that does reveal how the money's spent so you can at least have some form of accountability there, right? But as you said, this is a long-running problem with these kind of international charities, because how do you hold them accountable? You know, they're non-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations, presumably, and so they're not really accountable to any one particular personal group. Channel 4 did a really interesting breakdown of this, and from the ones that we can see into, it seems that between 60 and 70% of the charity's annual spending actually goes on charitable activities. So almost half of what's going into some of the really big charities is going on wages and fundraising. Interesting. But I mean, you've got some that, like the National Hereditary Breast Cancer Helpline. How could you not want to donate to that? Well, it turned out that only 3% of their total expenditure went on charitable activities in 2014-2015. That was 27 grand. 800 grand went on fundraising and other expenses. So it's not like these international charity organizations are free from corruption. And as you said with Joe Biden's one, 2% was actually going. So, I mean, like, just if you want to give money to someone charitably, the pound you give, only 2 pence or 3 pence of that is actually, it possibly gets to the destination. So Hamas is just gonna be like, is that it? So I don't mean to joke or anything, but like, it seems to me wildly irresponsible for left-wing YouTubers on the internet who are thousands of miles away from the problem to just simply pour gold into the pockets of people who will eventually fund terrorists. And it strikes me that this is probably illegal in our countries anyway, so not the wisest move, but I guess it seemed like a really good virtue signal. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.